In July 1518, a woman stepped into the street in Strasbourg and began to dance. She would not stop, not that day, not the next. She danced for 6 days straight. There was no music playing, no celebration. Just one woman moving toward exhaustion, unable to explain why. Strasbourg, 1518. 20,000 people crammed inside stone walls on the banks of the Rhine, a wealthy city and a frightened one. Failed harvests had left the poor starving. Smallpox and syphilis moved through the streets. The church taught that God punished sin with disease. There was one punishment people feared above all others: the curse of Saint Vitus, said to force sinners to dance until they died. Into this city on the 14th of July stepped a woman remembered in the record only as Frau Trophäa. She walked outside her front door and began to dance. No music, no audience, no reason anyone could see. She danced through the afternoon. She danced through the night. When her body gave out, she rested, then rose and danced again. By the 4th day, her feet were raw and bleeding. Her husband begged her to stop. She could not. Within a week, 30 more people were dancing beside her. Within a month, historians estimate the number had passed 400. This was not a celebration. Witnesses described vacant eyes, involuntary spasms, and people weeping even as their feet kept moving. Terrified, the city council summoned physicians. Their diagnosis would make the outbreak worse, not better. Medieval medicine held that the dancers had hot blood, and the prescribed cure was more dancing, to burn the sickness out of the body. So the council built a stage. They hired musicians. They opened guild halls, giving the dancers exactly what their bodies seemed to demand. It backfired instantly. The music did not calm the afflicted. It pulled more of the city into the square. Day after day, they kept dancing. Chronicles from the time describe people collapsing from heart failure and stroke, dancing themselves, quite literally, to death. Historians still debate the exact toll, but one detail recurs again and again in the record. At its peak, as many as 15 people were dying every day. Here is what most retellings leave out. Strasbourg was not the first. Dancing plagues had struck towns along the Rhine for more than a century before. This was not a single freak event. It was the worst outbreak of a pattern Europe had already lived through and never understood. Eventually, Strasbourg's leaders reversed course. They banned the music entirely and tried the one thing no one had attempted: sending the dancers away. Wagon loads of the afflicted were driven 3 days to a mountain shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus himself, the very saint they believed had cursed them. Priests pressed crosses into their hands, fitted them with blessed red shoes, and prayed over them beneath a carved image of the saint. And then the dancing stopped. Within days, the plague that had gripped Strasbourg for nearly 2 months simply faded away. For centuries, the explanation stayed medieval: a curse, hot blood, divine punishment. Modern science offers a very different answer. One theory blamed ergot, a mold that grows on damp rye and can trigger convulsions. But ergot poisoning restricts blood flow. It does not produce days of coordinated dancing. The theory most historians support today is stranger and more human. Mass psychogenic illness, a stress response spreading through a population starved, sick, and terrified of being cursed. Their bodies were not possessed by a saint. They were breaking under the weight of famine, disease, and fear, in the only language their minds had left to speak. No one ever agreed on why it happened. But for 2 months, an entire city danced, and some never stopped until their hearts simply gave out. 500 years later, the questions Strasbourg could never answer are still being asked. What happens to a mind pushed past its limit, and what would it take to make you dance?